Good morning. I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church right here in Beaumont, Texas. And we're here on what's happening in our neighborhood. And I'm excited for our guest today, Miss Allison Getz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my family has been here since the late 1800s. My children are the sixth generation to be in our community. So I have a real vested interest and love this area.
Wow, Allison, hold up a second. So your family has been here for 6 generations?
Yes, sir. Sure has.
Wow, so you're definitely invested in our neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what you do for the citizens of Jefferson County.
Well, about 3 years ago, I was elected to office as your tax assessor, collector, and voter registrar, and I've really enjoyed the position. I've learned a lot, and feel more like a veteran now. So very, very happy to serve.
So you are responsible for taking all of our tax money.
Yes, I'm usually the person that everybody avoids when you come in a room. But, collecting property taxes is essential to our communities. It's what keeps the cities running, the school districts going, the ports, the navigation districts. Those are all the 29 jurisdictions that we serve. And so if you don't pay property taxes, you don't get essential services that everybody needs, in their life.
So about how much on average do you take in for the year in our property taxes? Because I look at my property statement tax and it's like going to this one, this and that.
Right. Well, we collect about $600 million that goes through our office each year. So we collect that from the taxpayers, and then, as I said, we distribute it to 29 jurisdictions. And so that's what we're responsible for when it comes to property tax collection.
So when do you send out the notices of like this year I noticed that my taxes went up on my property tax, but anyway.
Right.
So when you, I might need to talk to you about that, Allison.
Well, it's like I tell everyone, I'm just the collector. I have nothing to do with valuation. That's the appraisal district.
Oh, okay. We got to get the appraisal district.
So let's get that straight so we don't have anybody not liking me more than we already have. But the appraisal district is the one that values your property, and then they send the rolls over to us, and then we collect based on what those valuations are. And so, that's the process. We send out the bills in October, and that's actually when the taxes are due, but they're not delinquent until February 1st. So most people like to pay their taxes mid to late January, but they're actually due October 1st.
Now, but you also do something called the sheriff sales. You're responsible for the sheriff sales. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So what happens is 98% of those that we send property taxes to pay their property tax. There's only 2% that are delinquent, but that is a significant amount of money. And so in those instances, sometimes we seize the property. And this is for people that have not paid their taxes for years. And these aren't, disabled people, not over 65. These are people, able-bodied people, that are just choosing not to pay their taxes. And so those homes will go on the sheriff's sale. The person has the ability to enter into a payment agreement. We have many ways that we work with people. So these are only people who are just saying, we're not doing it.
So okay. So if a person decides that I'm not paying any more taxes,
right?
You start a process.
Correct.
To take.
We file a lawsuit.
Uh-huh.
There are many aspects of the procedure, many chances that you get to get your property and to pay your taxes and to give you another chance. It's just when we have exhausted every possibility and the person just is saying, I don't care, I'm not paying. And at that point, that's when they get on a sheriff's sale.
And when is the sheriff's sale done?
They're done on the first Tuesday of the month. We don't have them every month, but we do have them periodically. So what happens is it's actually the sheriff that conducts the sales. We just help in the process. And we usually have about 100 properties, and you can register to be a bidder. You have to prove that you don't have delinquent property already, because the last thing we want is some deadbeat, buying more property and having more problems, with our delinquent taxes. But anybody can do it as long as like I said, there's certain things that you have to fill out on a form, and then you bid on the properties, and it's the highest bidder gets the property. Now, sometimes we have properties that don't sell. So then we have what we call a resale. And that's where you have an opportunity to get some incredible bargains.
Okay.
And at that point, the property, vacant lots start at $50.
Wow.
And lots with a structure start at $500. And so that's the minimum bid.
Now, is that still done on Tuesdays also?
Yes, the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
But it's not, like I said, it's not every month.
Okay.
We don't do it all the time, but we do have a website, jeffcotax.com. We always place the sales and the list of the properties on the website ahead of time, so everybody has ample opportunity to go out and look, because everything you're buying is as is.
Okay.
So you've got to make sure that you do your due diligence, you go out there and look at the property, because we don't, we have no responsibility as far as, telling you if it's in good condition or not. But you can get some pretty incredible bargains.
Now, if a person chooses to be a part of the sheriff's sale,
Mm-hmm.
do they have to pay at that moment? Once, if they win the bid, I mean, is payment due right then?
It's due by 4 o'clock that day.
Wow.
Yep.
So don't come play around.
No, you gotta be serious, and you have to pay with cash or a cashier's check. So, I have seen people with, a container that has, $60,000 in cash in it, which I don't recommend.
Yeah.
But that is, because that's the only way, somebody could pay you with the check and then stop payment, and then what happens? So that's the procedure, that's the way it works.
Now, what about the, I know we've all seen these houses in neighborhoods that have been vacant, that become a eyesore.
Absolutely.
That's a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Right.
So do you do anything with those?
Yes, what I did is I instituted an interested buyer program, so that if you have an abandoned property in your neighborhood, property next door where, nobody's cutting the grass, stuff is going on, you call my office, give me the address, let me know that you're interested in it, and I'll fast track it up to the top of the list. And those are the properties that we're really going after. Now, if something is a public nuisance, like, for example, in Hampshire Finette, there was a school across the street from the high school, and kids were in there doing drugs. It was horrible. So I could declare that a public nuisance, go to court, and immediately seize that property and get it on the next sheriff's sale. Ordinarily, it takes about 1.5 years. It's a process, bureaucracy. But if something is truly a public nuisance, then I can go after it, and I've done that twice since I took office.
Now, is that some of the things that you were doing when you were working with Lamar University to clean up that area?
Yes. With Lamar University and the Port of Beaumont, they have identified properties that are around that area, and we're trying to get those properties, fast track them on the sheriff's sale, so that they can really, beautify those neighborhoods and keep the kids safe that are in those areas. And so I applaud those efforts, and I'm willing to do that with anyone. Like, for example, a church will have, property that they could use as a parking lot. And so, we'll help facilitate that so that you can get the property at a very low cost and then use it, for your congregation. So that's just an example.
Now, okay, so now you also deal with the auto registration. Normally when we have to go get our tags and things of that sort.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we have 225,000 people that do auto registration renewals every year through our office. And so, of course, you've got to go get your car inspected. And then after you've done that, you get the renewals from our office. So one of the things that I did was went to H-E-B and Kroger grocery stores and asked them if we could put that into their grocery stores. So, a lot of times people wait till the last minute.
Right.
Even though you can do this by mail and online, you're 2 days from the end of the month and you forgot to, get your tags. So everyone comes to my office, or one of my 3 offices, at 12 to 1. There's long lines, everybody's miserable. So I thought, okay, let's do it at the grocery stores, where you can do it anytime the grocery store, the business centers are open, And you can just go down there, get your groceries. You can do it at night. You can do it on the weekends, which is the whole point to me of being the tax assessor is to serve the taxpayer. And so anything we can do to make things easier for the taxpayer, I'm willing to try to do.
Now, one of the things that I noticed, I think this was a couple of years ago, because one of the things, I would always bring my insurance card in, all my paperwork in, and then one of the ladies said, well, we don't necessarily need your insurance card anymore because it's in the system.
Well, ideally. It's supposed to be in the system. So we still tell people to bring it just as a safety net. It's just good to have, because in the event it's not in the system, you have proof that shows that you have it. But if you go to the grocery store, you have to have that renewal that you get in the mail. Now, when you come to our office, you really can virtually have nothing, and we can figure it out as long as you know your license plate number or your VIN number. And but at the grocery stores, you have to have that renewal receipt.
Now, is there any restrictions? I mean, let's just say that I'm late on child support or back payment or thing like that. Would that stop me from renewing my?
Well, that is a new law, and not a law that we passed. Obviously, it's just something that they have decided to let us do. And basically, what it is you have to be behind in child support 6 consecutive months. And if you are, we deal with it in a very discreet manner. We have a little card that we give you that, the person can read and see what's going on. But it's the Attorney General's office that does this, and it's a hard stop in my system. So even though it can be wrong, they've got the wrong guy's name, whatever, I don't have the ability to override it. Only the Attorney General's office can override it. But we give people this little slip of paper, so it's not a big deal. Nobody around you knows what's going on. And it is on your renewal receipt, so it's not a surprise. When, people, everyone that we've had trouble with, they all knew when they came in that there was going to be an issue. But, we try to help people, the best we can. But, when it's a law, we
And so I don't want anybody to be upset with the clerks.
Right. I know.
Because it has nothing to do with you. You just, it's in your computer, and then boom, it just flashes.
Right. And that's, when the rule came out, I did go on television. I put out PSAs because I don't want my employees to be in danger of any kind, and I also don't want them berated by the public. It's not our fault. We're just, everything in the tax office is dictated by statute.
When you say, Allison, you're not the one behind on child support.
No, it's not me. But, I think it can be an effective tool, to get people to pay their child support. I get that. But again, we're just providing the service. We're not making the rules.
Now, you also provide the handicap placards and also title transfers.
We do. And so there are a lot of moving parts in our office. I don't think everyone realizes just how much the tax office does. We collect hotel motel tax, which is, over about $1.5 million that we collect each year. So, when you check into a hotel or a motel, there's always that tax on there that you just go, oh, what's that for? Well, that comes back to the county, and that helps with tourism and things that are going on in the community. And so there's a tax on vending machines. We collect that. There's just a lot of things that we do in the tax office that, we're lucky to have great employees that, have to learn a lot of different things. So.
And then on top of that, you got to do the voter registration.
I know, but that to me is the most important component of my job. Having the right to vote, being able to have a voice in what happens in your community is so important. And so I feel like our voter rolls need to reflect people who are living and breathing in Jefferson County, not those that aren't. And so we have about 145,000 registered voters. In November, this last November, we went up to almost 149,000. Wow. So it's come down a little bit, but prior to that, it was at 133,000. So this last election, I think, generated a lot of interest. But it saddens me that we have all these registered
Yes.
voters, and then you have an election like we just
14%.
had, and people don't get out to vote. And, you know, we have this deputization that you can do online to make it easy for people to go out and get people registered to vote. But the bottom line is, you can register all the people you want. If you don't vote, it doesn't matter. And so I encourage people to use their voice, get out and vote, and make a difference.
You know,
in your
Allison, one
community.
of the things I tell people all the time, if you don't vote, don't complain.
Right, but we got a lot of complainers. We got a lot of complainers. So I wish more people would exercise their right. It's sad.
Now, over in the past 3 years that you've been there, you've implemented some changes in the department. So what are some of those changes that you've implemented?
Well, in addition to what we did with auto registration, we have a website, jeffcotax.com, which is very interactive. So now if you have a problem, if you want to contact our office, you will get an answer within that working day, usually within the hour that you've asked the question, unless it's on a weekend or something, of course. We redesigned our tax statements. In the past, they were in color. I didn't see any real point. I don't think people get any happier getting those tax
not
statements.
at all. It don't matter if it's color or black and white.
Right, if it's black, ink, or green. And so we eliminated that. That seemed to be a needless expense. And then we also put the quarter pay option on our property tax statements. For those that are over 65 or disabled, it used to be if you were in the know, you knew about that. But now for anybody that's in that category, they automatically get that as an option on their tax statements, so they can use that quarter pay if they'd like to. We've also changed the balancing system that we have in our office. It's more in line with a financial institution, which that's my background, having been a financial advisor for 20 years. And that was important to me, to make sure that we are financially accountable to the county. And then, of course, we've installed glass in our mid-county office to have a barrier with the public like we have in Port Arthur, and we have security in that office as well. In our offices at the courthouse in Port Arthur and Beaumont, obviously we have security that's already there, but now we have security in that mid-county office as well.
So tell the citizens how they can get in contact with you, website information. That way, they can take advantage of those things.
Right, so they can contact us on the website if they'd like to email us, jeffcotax.com. They can call me personally at 835-8714. I'm very accessible. I return phone calls. I'm happy to help anyone. Chances are I'm going to have to get somebody in my office to help with the issue, but I'm happy to help anyone that needs any kind of assistance with regard to the tax office.
Well, listen, I want to thank Allison for coming today to share with us things that are happening in her office, in her department. Listen, so many things are moving parts that go on there at the tax office. So I want to thank her for coming today to share with you, the public, on what's happening in our neighborhood. So again, we'll see you next time on our broadcast.